Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cody Leach podcast. Today I'm going to talk about an issue that has always been around to a degree, but especially this past year has just gotten absolutely friggin' ridiculous. And that is people expressing their fandom and their passion for certain properties in a negative way. Very, very negative way. You know, we live in a time right now where superhero movies are the biggest movies out right now. And where we used to get maybe one superhero movie a year if we were lucky, now we live in a time where we get 3, 4, sometimes 5 of these things a year. And this past year, just about every major superhero movie that's come out has been plagued by this ridiculous, just coarse, vile, venomous fucking stain of these people who get on the internet and they just spew out all their anger and their hatred towards everybody that enjoys or doesn't enjoy a certain movie. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. You know, we live in a time now where what they used to consider geek culture, being, you know, comic books and all that kind of stuff, is cool now. You know, geek culture is in. And I don't know if it's just that for the longest time that these guys who at one point was kind of like the outcasts are now having to share the things that they love with the mass majority of people. Or they're getting jealous or protective or they don't want to share or what is going on. But, you know, the internet has given people a voice, and that voice is just fucking ugly this year. You know, before I even get into comic book movies, we saw a lot of it come out with this most recent Ghostbusters remake. Now, you know, Ghostbusters is a really beloved property from the 80s. And just the fact that they announced a Ghostbusters remake set people on fire. And before anything came out, any stills, any casting or anything like that, as soon as they found out, okay, there's a Ghostbusters remake, people just started shitting all over it. Then they find out that it's going to be a female-led remake, people start shitting all over it even more. And even though it deservedly so, when the trailers came out, people should shit all over it. You know, it got to the point where there was this harsh criticism and insults getting traded back and forth and death threats and, you know, all this craziness before the movie even came out. You know, all the positive reviews that started coming out whenever the movie was starting to get screened were called out as being false or paid off, or people were saying that, you know, oh, all these critics were just, they were too forgiving because they were afraid that they were going to be claimed to be sexist if they gave it a negative review. And, you know, we've gotten to the point now where people on the internet, first of all, going this deep and this crazy over something as silly as movies is absolute stupidity. At what point is a movie so fucking important that you have to insult people and threaten people and just go out of your damn mind talking about? You know, movies are supposed to be here to enjoy. Whether or not they're good or bad, every movie out there has at least 1 or 2 people that enjoy it. Even the worst fucking movie in the world has somebody that can enjoy it or look at it and get something out of it that the mass majority of us can't. But, you know, this year, like I was saying with the Ghostbusters thing, you know, we get death threats and insults and just people flooding the internet with hate. You know, Ghostbusters has a 73% on Rotten Tomatoes. Out of 274 reviews, the average review was 6.5 out of 10. That's not a glowing positive review. That's very mediocre. That is just above the median of liking the movie. You know, and I have my review of Ghostbusters up, me and Holly. Holly loved it. I didn't care too much for it. But I didn't attack her for the things that she took away from it that I did not take away from it. And she didn't attack me for the things that I took away from it that she didn't take away from it. And I don't understand why the majority of people out there, especially on the internet, cannot practice this. They cannot stand the thought that somebody does not share their opinion. And that is the most weak-minded, you know, pathetic viewpoint you can have, is that your opinion is absolute. Everybody else can eat shit if they don't agree with it. They're all wrong, and there has to be some wild explanation out there, or some corruptness, or some kind of a divine intervention why somebody does not agree with you. You know, there was a Reddit group that got created right around the time that all these initial reviews started coming out for Ghostbusters. These people made a Reddit group. And they created it so that they could team up and they would go around on YouTube and different review sites and they would thumbs down and, you know, negatively attack all the reviewers that were giving it even a mediocre to positive review. And I don't know all the details, but then there was also the thing not too long after the movie came out where Leslie Jones, one of the women who starred in the movie, was more or less driven off of Twitter because people were just sending vile things to her and insulting her and harassing her and flooding her with just hate. And that shit is just pathetic. So now getting into the DC versus Marvel thing, which is where it's the ugliest. Xbox versus PS4 is pretty fucking ugly. DC versus Marvel is way uglier. And first of all, I'm one of those people, I don't understand this viewpoint that some people have that you can only be fans of one. I mean, that's just being a corporate sellout slave. If you think that if you like DC, you have to hate Marvel. If you like Marvel, you have to hate DC. Absolute bullshit. I love both of them. I read both of the comics. I watch both of the movies. I feel just as strongly about Batman and Superman as I do Spider-Man and the X-Men. It's, why do you have to choose a side? And if you feel like you have to choose a side, that's childish bullshit. But, so people say that you can only be fans of one. And now that it's kind of turned into this competition where, Marvel Studios has their Marvel Cinematic Universe that's been in place since 2008, and Warner Brothers has their DC Extended Universe that they've been putting in place since 2013 with Man of Steel. And, DC is trying to catch up to Marvel. They're trying to get to the point where Marvel is, where everything's connected. They have, 2 or 3 of the big team-up movies, the Avengers and the Civil War movies, and everything that they come out, just as long as it has Marvel on there, people are going to go out in droves to see it. And, DC hasn't gotten there yet. And for various reasons. Some of it's studio interference, some of it's letting people who are in the director's chair have a little bit too much control, some of it's script weakness, some of it's acting choices that should have been corrected or should have gotten a different actor for it. I mean, many different things. And eventually, I think that they'll work it out, or at least I hope that they'll work it out. But, people tend to forget that Marvel, their movies when they first came out weren't perfect. I liked the first Iron Man a lot. It's not a perfect movie. Then they had The Incredible Hulk, which is a pretty decent movie, but not great. Then they had Iron Man 2, which to date is their worst movie. That was basically a 2.5-hour commercial for the Avengers. Then, the Thor movie I enjoy a lot, but that's a movie you're either on board for or you're not. And, I've heard a lot of criticism about the first Captain America, that it was just like a run-of-the-mills origin story. Again, I like it a lot, but not everybody. Avengers Age of Ultron had a lot of problems. Thor 2 had a lot of problems. Marvel is not perfect, so I don't know why this DC fanboys have this image in their head that Marvel gets sheltered and praised and held up to the gods like they are the be-all, end-all of film. Marvel fanboys poke fun saying that all the DC movies suck. DC fanboys cry like little bitches saying that, Marvel, every time a Marvel movie comes off, that Disney pays off the critics to praise Marvel and to slam DC movies, and there's an unfair bias among critics and unfair reviews and all this negative nonsense, which goes back to what I was saying about people just cannot accept the fact that people have different opinions than them. If you see Man of Steel and you think it's great, which I do, there's a lot of fucking people out there that don't, which I completely acknowledge. If you go out there and you see Batman versus Superman and you think that it's great, guess what? There's a lot of people that don't think it's great. Doesn't mean they're wrong. It means that they did not see what you got. And, the thing that's funny to me is, they come out every single time that DC comes out with a movie, within a day. As soon as a couple of negative reviews hit the internet, within a day, all these fanboys come out in droves. Oh, Disney paid them off. Marvel's paying them off. Here we go again. Okay. What advantage does Marvel have paying off to slam DC movies? Think about it this way. When Captain America Civil War came out, it ended up with about close to $1.2 billion. Would have made a fuckload more money had Batman vs. Superman gotten better received. People like to talk about superhero fatigue, which I don't think is a true thing. However, we have so many superhero movies coming out that if one sucks or is not very well received, or a lot of people go out and walk away after paying their money and spending 2.5 to 3 hours in the theater unsatisfied, they're not going to be very excited to go see another one a month later. So when Batman vs. Superman came out, and all the critics for the most part were trashing on it, and a lot of the fans were trashing on it, That movie walked away with $872 million. Batman and Superman sharing the screen, that should have cleared $1 billion in its sleep. So all the negative reviews for Batman vs. Superman obviously hurt that box office. And guess what? It bled through over onto Captain America. Captain America could have easily made $1.5 billion or close to $2 billion had Batman vs. Superman been just as good as Captain America Civil War. It's a fact. And Marvel knows this. So Marvel has absolutely no financial benefit to trashing DC movies because a rising tide raises all ships. If Batman vs. Superman would have been a bigger success, Captain America Civil War would have rode those coattails and been a bigger success a month later. So starting to get into all the crying and everything that goes on. So Batman vs. Superman came out. And within a week, there was this big story that kept getting pushed around on the internet that Disney's paying off critics and all this kind of stuff. Okay. Aside from the facts that I just laid out about financial reasons, do you honestly think that a major motion picture company, especially the size of Disney, would ever risk getting caught paying off critics to trash another movie? Think about it. If the story broke today that emails were hacked or something, somebody went to the press saying that, Disney had paid me off to trash these past movies this year, Disney would be fucking done. If Warner Brothers did that to Disney, Warner Brothers would be fucking done. If that story broke today, that shit would just smear whatever company that was into the ground. And nobody would trust them. Nobody would go see their movies for the most part. I mean, it would demolish that company. So none of them would ever take the risk of doing that just to trash a competing movie. Batman vs. Superman ended with a 27%, I think is what it has right now, 27% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's out of 344 reviews, the average review being 4.9 out of 10. So literally just decimal points below the median, which that movie deserved. Now, I was looking forward to Batman vs. Superman a lot. I mean, all the negativity that was surrounding that movie and all the hesitance and all the, the criticisms of how this looks and who's playing this character and, what villain's going to be here. I don't like the way this is. I held out hope that movie was going to come out and just destroy everybody's expectations. I wanted it to destroy everybody's expectations. I was looking forward to Captain America Civil War just as much, but just for the fact that them being new on the block, I wanted Batman vs. Superman to come out and be all that everybody was talking about this year in a good way. And I walked out of that movie very, very disappointed, very underwhelmed. I liked the Ultimate Cut better, but the theatrical cut that we got was a giant mess. That movie deserves the ratings that it's getting. 4.9 out of 10 is about what that theatrical cut deserves. And this is coming from somebody who's a fan of DC and of Marvel. So then Captain America Civil War comes out. And that movie right now holds a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. So out of 320 reviews, the average was 7.6 out of 10. Again, not a perfect review. It's not like all of these critics are coming out saying that Captain America Civil War is the next Godfather and they're giving 9s and 10s out of 10s. 7.6 out of 10. That's a pretty fair score for that movie. Captain America Civil War was a damn good movie. It wasn't perfect. It dragged a little bit in the middle. A lot of people didn't care for the villain. There was some very convenient story beats here and there, and even though I think they did a really good job at keeping it Captain America focused, there is a lot of characters juggled in that story. 7.6 out of 10, very fair review. But everybody came out when that came out, oh, Disney's bought off the critics again. Everybody's giving Captain America Civil War all this praise that it doesn't deserve after they just trashed Batman vs. Superman. Guess what? I'll watch Captain America Civil War 5 times before I'll watch Batman vs. Superman again. And the reason why it made even more money as well is because Captain America Civil War has rewatchability. It is fun. It's engaging. You can watch it and you want to go back and watch it again. There's laughs throughout. There's great action scenes. Batman vs. Superman is a dark, somber, slow, dragging movie. Nobody that I know will watch Batman vs. Superman and then can't wait to pop that movie back in again. Suicide Squad just came out, and this is what's igniting this whole topic again, and I knew it was coming. I've held out hope for Suicide Squad ever since I saw the Comic-Con trailer. Even more than Batman vs. Superman, I've been looking forward to Suicide Squad probably more than any other movie this year. And the early reviews are not great. Right now, it holds a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. So out of 164 reviews, which isn't all of them, obviously the other ones are, they're still, that's about half the reviews that this movie's going to have by the end. The average score is a 4.8 out of 10, so literally 1 decimal point below what Batman vs. Superman got. And within a day, all those fucking fanboys came out again. Oh, Marvel paid them off again. They're still at it. See, this is what we're talking about. Marvel just gets all the praise, and DC just gets shit on unfairly. Can't speak on to whether or not Suicide Squad deserves this rating or not. I'm going to go see it in a couple hours. But from the reviews that I'm reading and the mistakes and the problems that the movie has, it sounds like it's a lot of similar problems that they had with Batman vs. Superman, which is mistakes that come from a studio that doesn't know exactly what they're doing with their cinematic universe yet. There's studio meddling, there's different cuts, there's changes to the story, there's weird editing, there's one cut that David Ayer was very prominent on, there's another cut that the studio is very prominent on, and then you got a mishmash of both as a third cut. These are all problems that come from studio that does not know where it is going with its cinematic universe, how to please all of its fans, and how to please the critics. They are not sure yet. A lot of the problems with Suicide Squad, if they are in fact what I consider problems when I see the movie, I'm imagining is because of all the negative backlash that came from Batman vs. Superman. Now, before Batman vs. Superman came out, Warner Brothers was singing the praises of that movie, which, they're not going to come out and say it sucks, obviously, but they were saying everybody had standing ovations for this movie, and there was all these early Twitter critic reviews coming out where like, oh, Batman vs. Superman is the best superhero movie in years, and, you're going to cry at certain moments between Batman and Superman, and it's so engaging and emotional, and all the action's phenomenal. And I don't know what fucking movie those people were watching, but that's not some of the things that I got out of that movie. So whenever Batman vs. Superman came out, didn't clear $1 billion and was left with less than a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes, WB freaked the fuck out. You had the big report about the reshoots with Suicide Squad, and a lot of people were saying it was because they were panicking. They were trying to inject all these different scenes to try to appease what people said they wanted from Batman vs. Superman. They wanted more humor, they wanted more fun, they wanted more flash. And they didn't want just a dark, somber tone for Suicide Squad because they got enough from man. But the DC fanboys out there do not understand this, or they don't acknowledge it, or they don't care. They think it's just critics picking on the movie. Guess what? If a critic likes a movie, they're going to tell you that they like the movie. That is their job. They do not get paid to trash certain movies and praise certain movies. That is their job. There is internet critics out there on YouTube and other various websites that do these things that do not get paid. They just do it for fun, and they're giving their honest opinion, and so far most of those reviews are singing the same things that the major critics are saying. But again, we got these reports going, oh, they're being paid off. Now there's this stupid-ass Rotten Tomatoes petition, which is the main thing that I wanted to talk about with this episode. So this DC fanboy named Abdullah Saleh from Egypt created this petition against Rotten Tomatoes 2 days ago. The petition reads as follows: "We need this site to be shut down because its critics always give the DC Extended Universe movies unjust bad reviews, like Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Suicide Squad, and that affects people's opinion even if it's a really great movies." Okay, first of all, your English sucks. Second of all, for those that don't understand how Rotten Tomatoes works, Rotten Tomatoes is not a review site. It is a review aggregator. Nobody comes from Rotten Tomatoes and sits and watches a movie and gives an official score that Rotten Tomatoes then posts on their website as their rating for a movie. Rotten Tomatoes has a collection of reviewers and critics that is certified under their website. They collect all of their review scores from various sites, and they add them all together, and they give you a percentage of total critics that gave the movie a favorable review. So, for example, if me and Holly and Shane and Bella are all certified under Rotten Tomatoes, and WB lets all four of us in early to see Suicide Squad, and me and Holly and Bella love the movie and walk out giving it a positive review, but Shane wasn't impressed, so Shane gives it a negative review. When Rotten Tomatoes collects our review scores, Suicide Squad then gets a 75%. Now on the flip side of that, if we all walk into Suicide Squad, I hate it, Holly hates it, Bella hates it, but Shane walks out loving it. When Rotten Tomatoes collects our scores, now Suicide Squad gets a 25%. Very simple, but for some reason, 18,495 people, including this dumbass Abdullah Saleh, decided that Rotten Tomatoes is unfairly reviewing DC movies. So obviously you're all morons, and you're all sheep, and you all just ride bandwagons for the sake of spewing out your hate and your anger. Because Rotten Tomatoes does not give their own fucking scores. They collaborate with everybody else and aggregate everybody else's scores. So right there out of the gate, you're an idiot. Point number 2. WB, the company that makes DC movies, is a part owner of Rotten Tomatoes. So again, you're a fucking moron. WB is paying off Rotten Tomatoes to give them negative reviews to hurt their own movies. Yeah, you're an idiot. So then now this guy has rescinded his petition. It reached 18,495 signatures in less than 48 hours. And I guarantee you, not even 5% of that number have seen the movie yet. He rescinded it and he put a statement out saying, "Thank you very much for reaching more than 5,000 supporter. Second clarification, a petition definitely won't shut down the site. The aim of the petition is to deliver a message to the critics that there is a lot of people disagree with their reviews. A lot of people, the supporters and the opponents of the petition, act like we are already going right now to shut down the site. No, it's just a way to express our anger." Okay, express your anger about what, you dumbass? That somebody else possibly has a different opinion than you on a movie that I guarantee you haven't even fucking seen yet? This is what really pisses me off about people that get on the internet and spew out this bullshit. People are different. People see things differently. Art is subjective. Movies, music, paintings, all of it, everybody gets something different out of it. I will walk into a movie and get what I get out of it. Holly will walk into a movie and get something completely different out of it, even though we watch the same shit. I will turn on a song and get an emotional response from that song. Holly will turn on the song and get a completely different emotional response from the song. Sometimes they might be the same, but for the most part, people are different. And these people who go on the internet and spew all this bullshit out cannot fathom the fact that there are people out there with differing opinions than them. They would rather think that there is some ulterior motive or payoffs or some kind of a corruption that is causing the mass majority of critics and the mass majority of fans to disagree with their reviews on these movies because they just get paid off for it. Not because they didn't like what was done in the movie. Not because they didn't get the same thing out of it that they got. No. There's some other ulterior motive there. Well, here's the thing. Like I said multiple times, I love Marvel and I love DC. I don't think that Marvel's movies are all perfect, but for the most part, they're all pretty damn good. And they are reliable. They have a reliable brand. DC does not. And the reason why they do not is because they are not winning people or critics over with their movies yet. Man of Steel was very divisive. Batman vs. Superman was even more divisive. And it sounds like so far Suicide Squad is going to be even more divisive. Divisive is not a good term when you're trying to build a cinematic universe. So then this moron comes back out again. And he says, "My aim was, if critics were not accurate, I wanted it to be fair. I didn't expect the hate from all the objectors. In fact, I started this petition to gather DC fans to express our anger just for fun. I didn't mean it to be taken so seriously. After thinking, I found the petition pointless. And the only thing it does is spreading a speech of hate and online fighting among the supporters and objectors. The movies are something to enjoy, and the hate and fighting is the opposite of enjoying." Wow. First of all, obviously this guy just did this because everybody on the internet was calling him a fucking moron that knew what they were talking about. So he rescinded it to cease looking like a fucking moron. But I completely agree with his statement at the end. After thinking, The only thing it does is spreading a speech of hate and online fighting among the supporters and objectors. The movies are something to enjoy, and the hate and fighting is the opposite of enjoying. Something that I'm pretty much trying to hammer home with this episode. Enjoy what you enjoy. Do not spew hate and anger at somebody because they do not share your enjoyment with something. There's plenty of movies and music and other things that I think are great that a lot of people do not. And there's plenty of things that I think is not very great that a lot of people appreciate. I'm secure enough, in my opinion, to accept others. The majority of these people on the internet need to learn to do the same. The thing that really needs to change about all this, and then I'm going to wrap this all up, is that those of you out there, if you are one of these people who spew your anger and your hate all over everybody for liking something that you don't care for, you're an embarrassment to all of us that can get along with everybody else and can express our opinions without shoving it down other people's throats. You know, the people out there who are flooding the internet with all this garbage, you're giving all of us a bad name for being passionate about comic books, being passionate about superhero movies, and being passionate about movies in general. You're giving all of us a bad name. You're making it seem like all of us are all a bunch of whiny, crybaby little bitches that can't handle anybody else's opinions. So for nothing else, stop your bullshit so the rest of us don't get flooded with it. This has been another episode of the Cody Leach Podcast. Thank you for listening. Go ahead and like and subscribe below on SoundCloud or on YouTube. Leave any comments or questions about this video or your own opinions of this topic below on Facebook or SoundCloud or in the comment section of YouTube. And you can also contact me through Twitter using the hashtag the Cody Leach Podcast.